now we will go to Ms. Ashton, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank National Chief Bellegarde for joining us today and for sharing his powerful presentation. And I'm sorry there wasn't more time to hear your comments to my Conservative colleagues' questions across the way. National Chief Bellegarde, you are the first Indigenous witness, and as the National Chief, you speak on behalf of many across this country on what Bill C-51 will do to Indigenous peoples and Indigenous communities. I have a few short questions, and given our restricted time, I do want to ask you first, does Bill C-51 pose a threat to Section 35 rights?
Yeah, it does. It does, and I outlined earlier on, there's a duty to consult and accommodate. When any law that's going to be proposed by the Crown will affect Section 35 rights. And again, there's an obligation, and it's been proven as well in Mikisew Cree Chief Kudure's case that was won, that when any bill is developed, notice has to be given, and there has to be a proper opportunity for responses, to that bill. And that didn't happen in this case. And so I pointed that out in my presentation, that there will be legal challenges because of that.
Thank you. Second, you referred to it in your speech, but I'm wondering if you could elaborate. According to you, does Bill C-51 seek to criminalize dissent and Indigenous dissent and the expression of Indigenous peoples of their rights and of their title?
Well, that's the biggest fear and concern, that just because we're going to stand up to protect the land and our water on any development, that we could be branded as terrorists. And I think of the anti-fracking position Elsie Book took. Are the people terrorists because they're trying to protect the water? I think of even the Site C flooding in northern BC that's proposed. If the people there start standing up against that initiative, are they going to be branded as terrorists for trying to protect their hunting territories where they used to trap, fish, and hunt and gather? Are they going to be labeled as terrorists? I think of in northern Manitoba, Bipole 3, where they're clear-cutting the forests. The Chief Janai is standing up against that because that's where they used to hunt, fish, trap, and gather. Same thing. Are they going to be branded as terrorists if they try to say, hey, we have rights here? By going ahead with these developments, it's going to affect them. So that's our biggest fear, when our people are starting to stand up for their rights, that they will be branded as terrorists when they're not. They're just standing up for their fundamental inherent rights, treaty rights, Aboriginal rights, and they should not be branded as terrorists because they're protecting the land and the water.
Thank you. National Chief, I know you are aware of the facts that have come to light over the last few years about the incredible rates of surveillance of Indigenous activists and Indigenous grassroots organizations in this country. We're aware that even a few years back in 2009, it became clear that the RCMP intelligence unit was reporting weekly to approximately 450 recipients in law enforcement regarding the activities of Indigenous grassroots movements. Is this a reason for concern for you that might point to what Bill C-51 could do only more of with regards to surveillance that clearly already exists?
See, again, I referenced that in my comments. Again, the unnecessary surveillance, the infringement on privacy issues, and again, just people following around. I think of the example of one of our heroes, Cindy Blackstock, which was standing up for children, and the discriminatory funding on reserve for child care. She was followed around and just surveilled, just unnecessarily. Her privacy was brought into question so many times, unnecessarily. And I think there's going to be too much powers given to the agencies, government agencies, with this bill that will really be abused and infringe on that individual right. And a lot of our people will be followed unnecessarily, just again for standing up for things that are right, things that are just, and that's why we're looking at opposition to this bill legally if it goes through.
And finally, depending on the time, but I do want to ask National Chief, what are you hearing from First Nations leaders, but also grassroots members? Do you hear any support for what Bill C-51?
No, not at this point in time. Again, it's most of the responses that we're getting from our chiefs and leaders from across Canada that they're opposed to it because it's going to impact on our rights. And we don't want to be labeled as terrorists in our own territories, our own homelands, for standing up to protect the land and waters. That's the message we're getting pretty loud and clear from right across Turtle Island.
Great. Thank you very much. Any final comments, National Chief?
No, again, I think the recommendations and to government is to withdraw it and engage in a process with us. So that, and again, it's not just Bill C-51. Bill C38, Bill C45, the omnibus bills that really impact on Section 35 rights. We can work these things through, but let's establish a meaningful process and dialogue so that we can get it right, because everybody in Canada deserves to get it right and done in a good way. So that's our recommendation, to withdraw it. Let's engage in a respectful process and get it right.
Fine. Thank you very much, Chief Bellegarde. Thank you, Mr. Ashton.